You're listening to the Game Tenants Podcast.
What's up, and welcome to the Game Tenants Podcast.
The failed adventures of two gamers and their quest for Gamecast stardom.
Hey, everybody, here at the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about...
No, Ryan, stop. It's their podcast, not ours.
AKA Worthlessly Lazy, but so game crazy.
I am Church of the Game Grinder, and as always, joined by my excellent co-host, Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming.
What up?
This is episode 97. We got some special guests.
Yes, we do. We are joined by the Game Deflators, John and Ryan. What's up, guys?
Not much, man. How's it going?
Hey, thanks for having us, guys.
Pretty good. Pretty cool. It's cool having you guys on.
Yeah.
Doing a little crisscross action.
Yeah, for sure, man. We'll have to have you guys on our podcast at some point down the road. So thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. We've been talking about this for a while, so
Easily like 30 episodes. Easily.
32 even,
Maybe 32. Yeah.
It's always good to reach out through your local, podcasting area and try to find people that you can, hook up within your social circles. We all know that game collecting is a fun hobby, so it brings people together and you get to enjoy that.
Yeah, gaming is one of my favorite communities, so it's cool to see. Like, there's not as much toxicness as in other communities, that's for sure.
Well, that's debatable. Have you ever been on?
Unless you're playing an FPS.
Yeah. Have you ever joined in on a console war forum? That's actually pretty funny.
Oh yeah. I'm someone who plays Xbox and PS4.
So you're used to having people talk about your mom.
Yeah, I just go, oh yeah, I just get both. I don't play that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, are you guys cool with us saying where they can find us?
yes.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Please tell people who you are, what you do,
And where to get a hold of you.
All right, so I'm John. Obviously, I got Ryan here, and
Hey.
we're the hosts of the Game Deflators podcast, and talk about. Well, Ryan, what do we talk about?
So usually at our podcast, we like to talk about games that we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and then we choose a game each week to go through our rigorous inflation-deflation process, where we take the game, we put it into a device that plays games, and then we play that game for a little while, and we don't tell you if it's a 9 out of 10. We don't beat the game, we don't complete the game, but we do like to tell you how much the game is selling for right now on an average from the website price charting, and we give you our opinion on whether it's inflated, deflated, just right, and if you should add it to your collection.
For sure, and then anybody listening can find us on your standard podcast applications, so Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Podcast Addict, and of course we're on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Game Deflators on Twitter and at The Game Deflators on Instagram and Facebook.
Perfect.
For a second,
And
I forgot I was
soon,
doing a podcast. I thought I was just listening. I'm just so used to hearing you guys on your own episodes.
right? We'll have the gamedeflators.com. So I'm actually working on a website right now. I think, Jason, I shared it with you actually.
Yeah, I checked it out. It's awesome so far.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it when it's launched.
Noob website development.
yeah, you're sharing some of the hurdles you were having to overcome with it. But I like it so far. It's
Sweet.
More than just like one or two topics. There's like even got the collection and stuff in there. It's awesome.
Should be pretty sweet.
Sweet.
Also pretty sweet. Old school games.
Hell yeah.
I also like when they're highlighted. So
Yes. So the retro game highlight. Last time I talked about Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which I'm still not sure if that has been talked about previously. I think it might have. But this time, as always, when we have guests on, we like to have them highlight a retro game. So John is taking this one. So what you got for us, John?
So I don't know if we'd really consider this retro at this point in time, or we're just kind of showing our age.
Retro's over 10 years old, I'm considering.
Whatever, man. No, you know what? PK
That's what the Retronauts use for their criteria. It's good enough for them. It's good enough for me.
PK did a whole episode on what's retro considered and what's vintage, and I don't know if Dark Cloud's considered this, but Dark Cloud on the PlayStation 2. I think Jason and I are the only two here that have played that game, though.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So
yes.
Yeah, so dude, Dark Cloud was one of those like game defining moments for me. Came out at an era where I was probably around the teenage age at that point, and it just really opened up the genre for me on not only RPGs but world building, and it kind of had that feel of like a Sim City in a sense, where you're kind of getting the different pieces and building your city or your region or whatever it may be. And Dark Cloud just really kind of had that world building component that I liked, plus the RPG element that I was just at that point beginning to discover and really enjoy at that point in my life. And it just kind of bridged the two, plus combined if a character just didn't talk, was probably one of the more interesting things I played in that era of gaming. Jason, how about you, man?
Yeah, I've only played a couple hours of it, but what I played I absolutely fell in love with, and I was like, I gotta come back to this. And I just, one of the deepest regrets in my life is that I haven't gotten to play more. But yeah, I thought it was really cool, like how the customizable city and all that stuff was in it, and I liked the combat in it actually too. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, the combat and the weapon development was actually pretty cool as well.
Yeah, it was tons of fun, and yeah, you guys are missing out. So what the hell's y'all problem?
Well, I have it because I've heard great things about it. I think I have that one, and I might just have the second one. I know I don't have both.
What?
Oh.
But maybe it was 2 that was 2 not very good or something, or was 2?
You know what? 2 actually, I'm kind of in the same boat as Jason. I played probably about 5-6 hours of that game, and I lost my memory card, so I got to start it over. But when I played it, it just didn't have that same type of luster that number 1 did for me, at least.
So it's different, but it's not necessarily bad unless you're like, it's kind of like a Zelda 1 to Zelda 2, where it's not that drastically different, but you feel like, oh, I was kind of getting in the groove with the first one and was hoping for kind of more and slightly, updated.
More and better.
Yeah.
So, it's got a lot of the same elements as number 1, but it just didn't, like I said, didn't have that luster, didn't have that same type of kick that number 1 did. So I never really could get into it as much as I could the first one.
Sure.
So
cool.
You guys both really liked, well, John, you really liked this game, and you also really liked this game. But do either of you guys have your original copies that you bought?
Yes.
Yeah, I got mine much later. So yeah, I still got it. I got mine when I got back into, when I actually started more like hardcore collecting.
Okay.
One thing that Church knows for sure, but I'm not sure if you guys are aware, like I didn't get into RPGs aside from like Diablo style, like isometric like dungeon crawler games until I like got into collecting, because I had a friend who used to be like, hey man, you want to hang out and stay over at my house and shit on the weekend? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And I'd go over and he'd be like playing like a Super Nintendo RPG for like 3 hours, and I'd just be sitting there. And he'd be like, oh yeah, so you want to do something? I'd be like, yeah, anything. As fun as RPGs are fun to play, they're really not fun to watch. So especially when someone knows what they're doing and they're just like not even all the parts where people are talking, they're just scrolling through it really fast. You're like, so I'm not even getting any story enjoyment out of this. So that kind of put me off RPGs for quite a long time, until just last gen, pretty much. I started getting into them, and I've amassed a pretty awesome RPG collection. But yeah, there's a bunch of them I still have yet to play, but that was one I made sure to like pull out and check out as soon as I got it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll be coming back to this one. And it's been like 5 years.
Hey man, that was me, Final Fantasy 7. So I think I talked about in a previous episode of Ryan at some point, but I was in the middle of playing Final Fantasy 7 probably when I was in middle school, actually. And God, man, I got all the way to the end dungeon area where you're about to go into Sephiroth, and you climb down the rope and you're, going into where you need to go for him. And yeah, my game like glitched. It would not let me get out to go level up and get things like Knights Around and Gold Chocobo or anything like that. So I got there too early, and then I just couldn't get out. I literally could not get out of that dungeon and never could beat it. So I had to restart it in college. And I finally ended up beating the game and absolutely demolished it at that point. But dude, it's kind of the same situation for you, man. You start a game, you're like, this is awesome. I'm going to definitely play this thing. And then 5 years later, you're like, yeah, I'm definitely going to still play this thing when that time comes.
Yeah, it's kind of harder. Like, it's kind of the reason I came up with the backlog roulette was because like there's so many games that I buy I buy every game with the intention of playing it. There's only a couple of games I own that I either just got them in bundles or something, so those don't count. But most games I purchase specifically because I want to play them, and they just kind of fall by the wayside. I find that I can barely keep up with the current gen, so all the older stuff like kind of seems to fall by the wayside. So that's why I was like, hey, a backlog roulette will at least get me pulling these out and checking them out. And then once I got the system out, I find I play a lot more of the other games that I've got on the shelf too. So it just kind of starts the ball rolling, especially since we typically just pick like a shorter, like 10-hour or less game. I look it up on how long to beat, and if it says like 10 or less hours, I throw it in the roulette. And we actually did a RPG one too, because I'm like, man, I've got so many RPG games that I can't even pick between them. There's so many of them. So at least I got 38 of those on, and we do one of those like every 3 or 4 episodes or so. So
how many games are you regularly beating?
I usually try to beat at least a couple. After a long game, I like to knock out a few short ones, so that just I'm getting through more. A lot of the older games like platformers and stuff only take like an hour or 2 hours.
So you've been playing a lot of shmups in the last while too.
Yeah, the last day and a half I beat I think like 6 or 7 shmup games. But
wow.
I like my beat 'em ups too, and beat 'em ups are the same way. You can beat 'em up in like an hour and a half usually. So,
maybe you can. I am not that good. I love playing stuff I just recently hacked my SNES Classic and PS Classic.
awesome.
So using save states on there has been like an absolute godsend to get through some of those games and actually be able to play more of them than I normally would be able to.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I don't think I'm like some kind of shmup god, because I'm actually usually quite bad at them. But once I get some good practice in, I can get through them. Some of them thankfully have like a free play mode where you can just keep going, but some of them you only get a certain amount of continues. But for the most part, yeah, I like to take on like an RPG or like a long story driven game, maybe a couple of those in a row or like that, and something else on the side. I'll usually have like a shooter game and an RPG or something like that going.
So you usually run like a couple things at a time. I was doing okay with that for a while, but like sometimes you just fall into those holes where it's like one game pulls your total attention away from everything else you were just playing through.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. That was Final Fantasy VII Remake for me.
Oh yeah, and that's usually my approach, because years ago, before I started collecting, when I'd get a few games, it'd be like, oh yeah, I just play this one for a few hours and move on to something else. So now when I play a game, like that's the only game I play, like unless I'm playing like maybe an online game at the same time, but I play one game at a time, beat it, move on to the next.
See, Ryan is still in that phase that you were at church back then, where you kind of pick up a game, you play it for a bit, and then you're done. That's where Ryan is currently. I'm right in the same boat as you and Jason, where that's the game I'm playing, and that's what I'm going to go with, until for the most part.
I'm just notorious for abandoning games too. Like I'm literally, I was playing through Final Fantasy 12, the Zodiac Age on Switch, and literally all I have to do is go up this ladder and do the last 2 boss fights and the game's over. And that was months ago.
He's killing me, dude. Like every week, it's like, what are you playing, Ryan? Well, I've got this new game I just downloaded. I'm like,
I've been playing this new game, Monster Train, for like 2.5 weeks, like
you need
full
to play
bore all the time.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it on the last episode. I haven't heard the very newest one because I haven't had to drive anywhere yet. Usually I like to listen to podcasts while I drive, but I remember you just mentioning that you just started it up and fell in love with it. So that's cool.
Yeah, but it's just one of those whole games. Like I tried to get away from those games that are just like time vampires. Like I used to love to get down on some League of Legends, or I used to I'd play a lot of this one game, Asura's Wrath, which is like a dungeon crawling game that's in any of those roguelike games. Like those roguelike games are just like, oh yeah, I'll take 100 hours of your time. Yeah, I'll just take that right now. And it's like, man, I could be done with Persona 4 by now.
Yeah, same here, because I do play, well, I used to play a lot of PC games online, and after a point, it's like, all right, well, I just put 500 hours into Diablo 3. Maybe I should play something else. Or
yeah, exactly.
300 hours into Overwatch. And
yeah, I'm at the age now where I get annoyed by a game if it's obviously just trying to pad itself out and putting the story off and making you do all this side shit that in the end doesn't really matter at all. As much as I'm an explorer, I love exploring in a game, but when I feel like a game's just wasting my time and dicking me around, I kind of
it's not respecting your time.
It sours me on the game now. Yeah. When I think I'm about to be done a game and then I'm wrong, which isn't very often, but when it does happen, it bugs the shit out of me to where the point I'm just like I want this to be done. I'll go from doing all the side stuff to being like, fuck the side stuff. I'm running through the end of this. Last game I remember really annoying me was Red Dead Redemption 2.
Another game I fully abandoned, like right at the climax too.
What's the order of games Ryan's beat? Jason, I'm that same exact feeling. I had that with Alien Isolation. I don't remember when I was playing it. What? But no, okay, look, hear me out on this, okay? So you get to this whole point and you're like, wow, you're at the end of the game. You kind of have this feeling like I'm about to beat this game. You go down into the bottom of the ship where everything's just hit the fan and there's aliens everywhere and or xenomorphs, I guess. And you have the the face guys. I'm not a huge Alien fan to begin with, but you've got all of these things going down and you escape. You get the ship powered on, you go back up, things are like, cool, we're all good. And then it goes into the whole like robots and that whole situation. It's like it went from this one storyline that was like super fluid and awesome to like 5 extra hours of gameplay that I really did not want to deal with. That last bit, man, right when you get from the AI to the end, it wasn't satisfying at that point for me. I kind of lost interest at that point. I just wanted it to be over with.
It's one of my favorite horror games of all time.
It was a fantastic game. Don't let me wrong. I just think it was a little bit too long in my opinion.
Sure.
It was 24 hours of gameplay.
Yeah, I'm all for like a hook where you're like, oh shit, I thought that was it, and then I like to be surprised, but
like
sometimes
the longest hook I've ever had. Like it was easily like 10 hours of gameplay, 5 to 10 hours of gameplay, easily.
Yeah. That was like with Red Dead when I thought I was almost done, and then it ended up being like another 20 hours or something. I was like, all right. Can we get
it's that point where you're like satisfied and you're like, wow, this is a great game. And then something else comes up and you're like, really? Like I thought it was done. Like I was happy with this part of the game and now you're just extending it. And for me, at least with Alien Isolation, that ending, it could have been either way. It could have been right when you kind of get the ship going and that's it and you escape. And then that whole ending sequence occurs. And that would have been fine. But when you start getting into those robots for that extra 5-10 hours of gameplay, I was like, man, we could have just ended it 5-10 hours ago and I would have been just as excited and happy.
Yeah, there's certain times where I feel like also like the other way around where I'm like, oh, it's just getting going, and like dick punch, just kidding, that's the end of the game. You're like, oh shit, really?
It's not the end of the game. It's called a season pass.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, they just felt like being done making this game, I guess. And then they throw it out there for a sequel and you're like, I won't be playing it. That could have been this game.
Yeah, it could have.
Yeah, so there's a yin and yang to that.
For sure.
more from Retro Game Highlight.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's jump into some news topics here. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention real quick. As per, it's kind of been the trend lately. A couple new Kickstarters that I think everybody should check out. They look pretty interesting. First one is a game called Lisa, Alisa. It is essentially an independent made. I think it's made by one guy, but it's essentially a PS1 style survival horror game. For me, that's a soft spot. I'm a sucker for those classic survival horror games, tank controls and everything. So check it out.
The images look really cool.
It's a little bit more high fidelity. It's not as like chunky as say like original Resident Evil, but not much better. I mean, they pretty much tried to go with that like Resident Evil Silent Hill original styling, and it has a interesting idea behind it, and that's currently on Kickstarter. I think it's about halfway through the campaign, so there's a couple weeks left. So definitely recommend checking it out. And another one is a Metroidvania called Vernal Edge, Vernal Edge. I've been following this the development for a while now. Initially, the guy's pixel art and animation kind of caught my eye. So this is another one of those like cool kind of like pixel art Metroidvania games. Also on Kickstarter, about halfway through the campaign. I kind of feel bad for both of them because I think this is probably not a great time to be doing a Kickstarter. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta put it out there and see what happens.
It looks like Vernal Edge has a demo. Have you checked out the demo?
I haven't checked out the demo. I don't do demos much anymore. Very seldom. Pretty much the look and kind of what the game is going to be about sold me enough. And there's I think that one has the physical option as well.
Okay, that's cool. Always love to see those games come out in a physical release.
Yeah. And then another game documentary was just released by NoClip, who they do crowdfunded game documentaries. Really recommend checking it out if somebody's not familiar with them. They just did a documentary about essentially the history of Arcane Studios, who they're known for like Arx Fatalis, Dark Messiah, Dishonored, the new Prey 2018, or when did that come out?
Yeah, 2018, I think.
Yeah.
Is that what prompted you to get another copy of Dark Messiah?
Absolutely. It's like, I love that game. I wanted to give it a shout out, and I wanted a full copy because I originally got a copy of Dark Messiah back in like 2006 when I bought a GeForce 8800 GTS. It came free with it and just a loose disc, which I was like, okay, cool. And I managed to just get a complete in box PC copy that's still sealed and still has like a mint slipcover over it. So
awesome.
That was great, and it's super cheap too. I mean, PC games in the recent history aren't as valuable as some of the more classic like 90s PC games. So a lot of times you can get them pretty cheap. But I was pretty surprised on that.
Box release?
No, it's the smaller
Okay.
PC box. And actually it's one of those thick DVD cases that it has a cardboard slipcover with the fold out flap.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's kind of like right when they were starting to transition to cheaping out on quality PC physical releases. But them's the breaks.
I got it for 360, so
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
You played it?
Yeah, I played a little bit of it.
Play all of it.
Actually,
It's super good. It is really good.
It was one of the first games I ended up getting for the 360, actually, because it was in like the dirty cheap bin.
It's basically the spiritual successor to Arx Fatalis and the spiritual predecessor of Dishonored.
Neat.
So, yeah.
That sounds pretty cool. I've never played hardly any of those games. I think the new Prey is the only one I played, but I've seen a lot of those other games covered places, and a lot of them look very cool.
Yeah, they all get good reviews and everything, and they sell pretty well, but they just kind of seem to get forgotten after a while. Like, especially like Dark Messiah, I never hear anybody talk about that game. I see Arx Fatalis get mentioned once in a while, like more in like a kind of PC game nostalgia. But even Dishonored kind of like, yeah, everybody likes Dishonored, but nobody really talks about it anymore. So enough on that. I guess talking about some cool stuff. Is everybody excited for the Game Gear Micro?
No.
Limited fanfare.
I am championing this device as an amazing move forward for humankind.
Like,
I was so excited.
They got Game Gear to work on 2 AA batteries.
That's amazing.
That's a huge improvement.
It
3 times as less batteries.
It only took about 30 years to get it down to 2.
And think about how many less things use AA batteries now. Like, if you don't have 2 AA batteries lying around, you don't deserve a Game Gear Mini.
Is it even as big as 2 AA batteries or smaller?
No, it can run off of 2 AA batteries.
That's all it would
Yeah,
fit.
it charges by USB or could run off AAA batteries. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Misspoken.
Oh,
Shit.
wow.
Yeah, because at first I was going to say I'm surprised it didn't just have a rechargeable battery in it, because seems like it's so common and so cheap.
I was going to
these
say, if
days.
you
I
put
guess
double
they're
A's in it,
doing-
it'd probably be 90% battery.
I guess they're doing both to
Rechargeable batteries are a $20 upcharge.
right.
I don't know for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me.
No, you got to get the AC adapter, and you have to play plugged into the wall.
Yeah. Separate items.
Authenticity.
This is the famous handheld that you have to keep plugged into the power source.
You see that if you buy all 4, you can get a magnifier with it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
No, there legitimately is, from what I was reading today.
Oh my goodness.
yeah. It'll launch with a big window, the Sega big window, and honestly, it does not look that much bigger, but I kind of love it.
What happened to all those classic like handheld attachments?
So many
Like,
peripherals.
It's not even my final form, and
Yes,
Yeah, it's I would have rather they just have a regular size Game Gear with like 80 games built into it, done well. But as it is now, I'm only incrementally more excited for these than the return of the Tiger handhelds.
okay.
so I guess just in case somebody is not familiar with what the Game Gear Micro is, one of you guys want to kind of give the rundown of that real quick?
Yeah, so it's a piece of crap, and it's little tiny Game Gear
Come on,
system.
John.
Okay, I'll be nice. I'll be
It's in the palm of your hand.
It's a cute little piece of crap.
Yeah, a cute little piece of crap. Your game comes in 4 different colors, preloaded with 4 games. So if you're really interested in spending $50 on 4 video games that go on one particular system, and you got to collect them all to get all 16, this is the right item for you. So it's pretty much anywhere. We've got the hashtag going on right now of Sega Fail. And you can find that way too. Dude, you guys might want to also mention Sega Fog was tied to this too. So Sega was promoting this whole like huge earth-shattering announcement, and they give us the Game Boy Micro and some like game fog thing that works with Japanese arcades, and that's about it.
No, I don't think I heard about that one.
It's weak.
Oh yeah, look that one up. So yeah, the big announcement was actually the Fog Gaming.
Mm.
Yeah.
So instead of cloud, it's the fog.
So it's like, it's not exactly cloud. It's supposed to be something that runs off of servers locally, and everything kind of pings off each other. And it's, from what I was reading, I'm not well versed in it, obviously, but what I was reading is something along the lines of people that own arcades within certain areas can generate revenue, I think, by having these servers, which are in the arcade systems, running for other arcades in the area. I'd have to look into it a little further, but it was something around
Yeah,
financial gain tied to this like semi-cloud gaming type of experience that would be included within the arcade systems.
Yeah, so it was like almost like a LAN party between arcades in a certain area, is what it kind of sounded like. And
It's super weird.
I believe that Fog was a great name for it because clouds are up high, and cloud gaming is great. And the fog is usually on the ground or near the ground, and that's where this shit belongs because it's kind of a stupid idea.
I mean, hey, this is Sega here. We all know what happened last time they aimed high.
Yeah,
They're trying to play it close to the vest this time.
Yeah.
But
Right.
let me champion this little Sega Game Gear Micro real quick because I think I can sway your guys' perspective on it.
Okay.
it's like
So each of these little devices only has 4 games on them, and they're super tiny. They're about the size of like a Tamagotchi, basically, right?
yeah.
But if the tech is there and this works and like is fun, you know, you can just have it in your pocket. I mean, I bought a Game Boy Micro and got like a ROM cart for it and everything, specifically so that I could have something I could just like pull out and play wherever I was. This kind of almost trumps that in a way.
If you can
Now-
hack it and add like the whole library, that'd be kind of neat.
Well, but
Yeah.
here,
High
gonna
function
go-
Tamagotchi.
I'm going to go a step further on it. This is Sega doing this, right? We all know Sega, you know, they try hard and we appreciate that. Now imagine Nintendo takes this and you get like all the different colored little Game Boy colors
To play it
that are
loud.
tiny, that have like a variety of games on them. They're probably going to be like of better quality. They definitely won't put in AAA battery support because that's stupid. Hopefully making it cheaper, maybe a little thinner, maybe a little awesomer. Maybe you get some awesome little Game Boy Color micros for $40
Hey,
or
Ryan?
maybe $30. How's
Let
that
me-
sound?
Let me help you out the naming convention. They could even call it the Game Boy Pocket and then create a false demand that drives the prices through the roof and makes it something nobody can purchase. That's a Nintendo product too, right?
There already was a Game Boy Pocket.
I know. I'm just screwing around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but they-
Ultimate thing that. Oh, go ahead.
well, they could create the false demand, but they can make it the Game Boy, the regular OG Game Boy Mini, and then just literally make it a Game Boy Pocket.
Yeah, with the same colors. That's totally a
Game
Nintendo
Boy,
thing.
you call it Game Boy Pocket 2. And
Game Boy Pocket U.
yeah,
Game Boy Pocket.
then extra confuse everyone and everyone be like, so what? It's like the Game Boy Pocket I already have.
I think it's the Super Game Boy Pocket Micro.
There you go. Yeah, I think really it's not even the 4 games that kills this for me. It's just the size. It's just too small. The screen is 1.15 inches diagonally.
That's what she said.
Yeah, like,
I think it'll be doable. Like, I love my Game Boy Micro. I know it's a bigger screen than this is, but
Mhm.
like, I mean, if the quality's there, like, it doesn't really matter how big it is as long as you can recognize what's going on. Like, you're probably not going to have fun playing a shmup on this.
oh, you're not gonna have. It was already hard to play Sonic on the Game Gear, so I picture this like doing great sales for like in hospitals where they have lots of preemie babies that could actually like hold this properly. It would be excellent for them and for development for these premature infants, and so that could be a market they're headed for. I don't know.
That's true. This is a Sega product. You know, I'm actually just waiting for this to hit the bargain bin at a Japanese Walmart, and then I'll import it from there.
Yeah.
So is nobody gonna buy one of these except me?
I will if it's in a bargain bin.
There's going to be a peripheral that you buy where this sits inside of a giant case that's the size of an actual Game Gear and has the screen like magnifies to like the size of a regular Game Gear, and everyone will be like, wow, awesome. And then that case will cost more than the micros do.
Do we
Well,
need-
they better make a CD peripheral for it. That's all I'm saying.
Game Gear CD.
contact Hyperkin.
Oh yeah. Hey guys, I think we need to get into some more important topics here, and that's what we were discussing before recording, where Ryan has never seen a Tiger handheld.
Oh, I should Google that.
Yeah.
No, don't. Come on, guys. We got to start a conversation now while Ryan doesn't have Google at his hands.
Tiger handhelds were these very, very basic handhelds with the
Oh
little
yeah, that's exactly what I was
screen,
thinking about.
the little black shapes that
LCD screen.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
Yeah, so that's what I meant. I was only incrementally more excited for these Game Gear minis than.
Well, see, I'm weird. Like, I'm super excited for the play date.
That sounds like it has some potential, especially like with that little crank. Like, there's some interesting stuff that can happen with, especially with indie development with that. I think that's interesting.
I mean, I would be all for, like, oh my god, I saw some collector. Did you guys ever do much of the Nintendo rewards?
No, I didn't.
Oh, somebody was showing off. They had the it was like a remake of an old Game & Watch that they did as a Club Nintendo reward like years ago, and I was like, oh my god, that's so sick. Like, I would even love for like some re-releases of that kind of stuff, because like I'm a sucker for novelty.
Well, they did do the Game & Watch compilations on the Game Boy.
Yeah, but that's not the same. It's the limitations of the device that make it interesting.
Yeah, that would be. I remember in elementary school. I think I was like 4th grade. A friend had a Mario Brothers wristwatch, and it had a little, just another kind of chintzy LCD Mario game that you just jumped on like 5 platforms, and that was basically all it was. And I thought that was the coolest thing.
I've never heard those words put together before. That was actually pretty cool.
What?
The limitations are what makes something interesting. That's actually
well,
cool.
It's like I got like I was talking about, I got that Game Boy Micro, and I chose the Game Boy Micro because it's like my favorite console of all time, and mine got jacked years ago. So when I went to Japan, I got like the 25th anniversary one, the Famicom one.
Nice.
There.
Sweet.
Yeah, and it was so awesome. I'd been wanting that one specifically forever, but it's just so expensive here on eBay.
Oh yeah.
So it's like I got a great deal on it there, and even though it has like the button limitations, like you can't do Super Nintendo on it because it doesn't have enough buttons.
Yeah.
So it's like, the limitation of only being able to play like Game Boy Advance, and NES games is going to expose me to playing. I played more NES games on that than I've played on an NES in the last 20 years. So for somebody like me who's not a collector, and I don't have the games and I don't have the consoles, it's like, if I'm going to get into emulation, it's like I could just do the like generic, well, I'm going to get a Super Nintendo ROM and I'm going to play some Chrono Trigger, or I feel like in emulation it's so easy to kind of fall into those holes of like, what are like the big slots in my play gap, that I can go back and fill in. And I feel like a lot of that kind of comes from Super Nintendo, because that's kind of that, at least for me, because that's kind of the age that I came up in gaming. So it's like I always think about those SNES games that I never played more so than anything that really came before that. I never had Sega, so if this is going to get me to play some Sega games, I'm super down for that, because John and all the listeners over at the Game Deflators know that I suck at Sega games.
That he does.
Yeah,
He really does actually suck at Sega games. It's actually pretty scary.
I've heard this on the podcast.
Yeah. Ryan can never get a hold of the 3 buttons, and throw a 6-button controller his way, and he's done. He's just out.
I did not spend much time in the arcade.
It sounds like my wife trying to play like any newer games. Like, she played a lot of TurboGrafx and NES and Super Nintendo, but like when it comes to like sticks and like triggers, she's like, what the fuck? Like, she's a big Star Trek fan, so when that like Star Trek movie tie-in game came out on the 360, I got it and I was like, you can be Spock, because Spock's like her favorite. Thought she'd think it was the coolest thing. And then there's this part where there's like an explosion you have to run away from, and I'm like trying to explain to her how to play it, and then she just like sets the controller down and leaves. And I was like, oh, she's like, too many things. No. So yeah, I could see how like an addition of another button and make it be like, what? And you'd forget it's there.
Well, you have so much like ingrained, like, just
Muscle
game
memory?
knowledge of controls and stuff. It's hard to, tell somebody new that's never like had to control a first person camera in a 3D space, like how to do it accurately.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That I tried to get my fiance into gaming a little bit, and the controls were pretty much what shut it down.
My wife does pretty good. She loves herself some Kingdom Hearts, but outside of that and some Final Fantasy, she doesn't really get down for games too much.
Yeah.
Mine is in the middle.
She'll play everything.
Mine is in the middle playing Final Fantasy Mystic Quest currently. So randomly while I was working, I just kind of looked back and heard Mystic Quest battle music going on. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? The Super Nintendo's laid out on the floor and everything. So yeah, she's doing that, and man, she plays just about everything. GBA, I saw her playing a OG Game Boy to play some Final Fantasy Adventure not too long ago. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so she's playing some new gen stuff. So my wife's all over the place. She's actually got a list of different game series, and she refuses to play them out of order. So when I say she's playing Final Fantasy in order, she's literally playing like from the first release all the way to what's currently currently out, and in order, just 1, 2, 3 side games and whatnot. It's just straight
for a bit.
What's that?
That's going to distract her for a bit.
Well, and she's got a game like for multiple things. So now that she beat Odyssey for Assassin's Creed, she's done with the Assassin's Creed series until obviously the new one comes out, Valhalla. And she wants to start a God of War, which will be interesting to see that happen. And she's got Pokemon, man. I think she's on like Pokemon Black now. And same deal, just went through like from first one up to current.
John's house is like Beauty and the Beast, but in this story, his wife is Belle, and instead of having a giant library full of books to read, John's just got all these books or all these games in there, and she just pulls whatever off the shelf and can play it and just lets him deal with all the being a beast and collecting the games and stuff.
That's funny. That's exactly what my wife calls my game shelves, is my Beauty and the Beast shelves. She's like, you need one of those sliding ladders on wheels to like go across so I can reach the stuff on the top. My wife used to like playing games a whole lot like before kids, but now having kids, you know how kids will like never leave mom alone, even when dad's right there. So it's gotten to where if she wouldn't play it, she enjoyed watching me play it, as long as it wasn't just like a boring, war game, like a shooting game or something. She just God of War, she watched me play all of those. She was actually mad at me when I played the new one, and she only got to see a few parts, but I was like, I'm not waiting. This is fucking amazing.
Another awesome game I abandoned.
God, you really, dude?
Dude, that might be my favorite game of all time, but I haven't finished it.
Shit.
And I dropped it like right at like the peak part too, because Red Dead was so shiny and new. I just had to play it and abandon it as well.
Well,
Yeah, that happens.
I mean, you got some of the experience. At least you tried it. So there's that. There's other people who just like not played it. So you're better off than those people, at least.
Yeah. I think some exposure. I'm working on a plan to get through some of those old games and finish them off.
I don't really do resolutions, but that was kind of my thing at the beginning of the year, was to finish a bunch of games I had started and got significantly through them. Like I'm like 75% of the game. Like I'd either started them and played them for video things I was doing or another reason, and just never went back to them. So at the beginning of the year, I just plowed through, like I finished like a bunch of games.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
you hit like 100, right?
I think at the end of the year, I think I had 103 or something like that.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
That's a lot of good gaming time.
I was just keeping up with Jason's hashtags of just beat it the entire time. Like there was a good like 2-month period. It was just like just beat it. I'm like, how much time does this guy have on his hands?
It helped. Like I play a lot of the games with the kids. Oh, I guess it was just 101. I play a lot with the game, but when it was like, what was it, the end of November, I think, or middle of November, one of our episodes, I was like, wow, I thought I was at like 70 games, but I was actually at like 63. And I was like, I might as well like push for 100. That'd be kind of cool. So then I just became obsessed with just like beating the shit out of some games, but try not to just beat all short games. Just
Yeah.
And then I like started a bunch of games, like I said, VR games like Trover Saves the Universe and stuff like that. And so at the beginning of the year, that was my goal to be like, that game was awesome. I need to finish it. Absolutely love that game. And then I made it happen. But it was, last year was crazy. I think Polykill's probably getting flashbacks to last year because the last 2 days have been just murdering games.
Wow, that's crazy. Me and John are slackers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're chumps compared to you, man. Like we set out a goal for 1 game a year, and I already beat mine.
I have not. I stopped cold dead in the water on my game.
Well, look, I'm too late to go back because one of the games that I did that with was Witcher 3, which is the game that was the reason I bought an Xbox One. Was coming out. I think I bought it the day before Witcher 3 came out. And I was literally at a spot where the guy's like, hey, let me know when you want to go like fight the bad guy for the final battle. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then I just stopped playing.
Perfect.
So I pulled a total Ryan move there. And then like I started it up one day and I was like, holy shit, I was like, I think I'm close. I'm pretty close. But yeah, I didn't realize I was actually right there. And I'd just been doing side shit. So I started it back up and I think I played for like 6 hours that day. And I probably got the amount of achievements I had in the game already again through all the stuff I did and beat. I was like, wow, I had to do one thing to get all of these things, like a whole quest line done and this and that for all the hunts and then beat the game. And I was like, wow, I feel like a total asshole for not just sitting with that game for like 6 more hours and playing it. But now I've really put my my foot in my mouth there because I also bought the both add-ons for it that are like one is like the size of the game again, but they were on for like $6 while I was playing it, and I was just like, yeah, I'll keep going. And then I put it down and haven't played it again, but at least I beat the main game, so that's sweet.
Yes, it counts, man. Dude, like I'm still playing ArcLad 3 on my end, and I'm like 49 hours in. It just makes me wonder, like, if I wasn't so invested in RPGs, I probably could nail out a good amount of games every year. The problem is I'm playing like 3 RPGs a year on top of the other stuff, plus whatever I'm playing with my wife.
Well, yeah, like I said, I like to knock out long ones too. I don't just aim for numbers. I just like to play a variety of games. I like all types of games except for simulation racers and 99.8% of sports games. So
yeah, after my next big RPG here, I'm gonna probably get into some shorter games and knock out some stuff that's sitting on the shelf that I just want to bang out.
Yeah, like I've played my fair of, like one of the most recent games I've beaten was like I went through Ocarina of Time again. So like it's not all short 2-hour games and shit. There's like some good 10+ hour, 20-hour games. Ocarina was probably like a 35-hour, 30 game. I don't know. I don't even remember how long I played that.
Nice.
But, yeah, that's why I said like I really want to get into more RPGs this year because I love RPGs. They're my favorite thing to collect, but it's such a daunting task, especially since like church and I say like when we were with the game, like that's our game.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to have like another game just to kind of like so I don't get sick of a game if it's a particularly long one. But yeah, I gotta get through some of these RPGs there.
Hoshigami. You gotta get your Hoshigami.
Yeah, I do. I just got that from you.
Yeah.
I want to compare it to the DS version, see how they're similar.
So I don't know if Ryan asked this, but Church and Jason, do you guys have like end goals for your collecting, or like is there a specific goal of what you want to collect more of? So I mean, you mentioned RPGs, and that's really where I'm at, man. Is I want to get like every PS1, PS2, and PS3 RPG. Like that's my end goal collection.
I don't really have a goal, honestly.
Shante?
I have all the great games, all the good games, all the games that I would potentially like or could like. My retro still has a lot that I want to add to my retro, and I think my main focus now is just the modern stuff, especially jumping on like I'm not going for all like limited run or those limited companies, limited run, signature edition, super rare. They're getting most of my attention now because limited batch. So it's like, oh well, if I don't get that game, I'm never going to be able to get a physical version of it. So that's kind of most of what I've been collecting is the games from those that I'm interested in. But just in general, I just want the good stuff. Only system I want a complete collection for is the Virtual Boy, and I'm halfway there. Everything else is just kind of.
What brought on that goal?
You didn't sing it though, so I don't believe you.
What's that?
You're halfway there.
So.
He's on a journey.
The Virtual Boy was essentially that I got a Virtual Boy in a mint rental case and 3 games. I picked them all up years ago for a crazy good price, and just like, screw it. The system I always, when I was in middle school, some friends and I used to stop by Blockbuster. We'd go over to the public library after school and play their computer games. And we'd always stop at this, I think it was a Blockbuster. And that's when they had a Virtual Boy kiosk. And, it's not a great system, but there's something about it that I was attracted to. It's just another video game thing, because I had NES and a Master System and a Super Nintendo, and friends had Genesis, but all of a sudden we got this new system. So it was just kind of something that was appealing to me. And yeah, it's a small library. It's only, what is it, 14 games? Or I think it's 14.
At least one of those games is really, really expensive, though, right?
The Jack Bros game, I think, is the most expensive one.
Okay.
Because there's that. I think the 3 pricey ones is Jack Bros, Nestor's Funky Bowling, and I think Waterworld.
I got it pulled up, guys. So 22 games in the library. You got Jack Bros, Hyper Fight, which is a
North American library.
Yeah, North American library. Jack Bros is like 530 for a loose copy. It's actually 21 games. Sorry, the Virtual Boy console's in here. Hyper Fighting, which is a homebrew, and then you had Waterworld and 3D Tetris are the games that are 100 plus. And that's loose, by the way.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Pretty rare. I only in person complete Virtual Boy game I've seen is the one I purchased. A few years ago, actually. It's probably been more years now. I forget exactly what it's called. There's a baseball game, and a few years ago you could go on eBay and get whatever the Virtual Boy baseball game was sealed for like $5.
What?
I was like, oh hell yeah, and I grabbed that. I'm not sure if it's still that cheap, but there's tons of copies. Somebody must have found like a
new old stock.
I can't believe we were friends. You said, oh hell yeah, about getting a sports game.
$5 sealed Virtual Boy game is what I got.
Oh, Virtual League Baseball?
Yes.
$48. Look at that.
Now it's 48.
Yeah.
Wow.
Deal?
It's actually it looks like the cheapest out of all the new games.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
got to spend somewhere.
10 times the money, right? You didn't spend $48 now.
Yeah, right.
See, I kind of a similar situation to you, man. Like, I really wish I could get the entire Vectrix collection, because I finally got a Vectrix system last year, complete in box. But the most expensive game on that list is Mr. Boston at 7,200 loose. So that's not happening.
Yeah, find someone who's got it.
Yeah, right?
A gun is cheaper.
Would you say it was cheaper?
A gun for robbery.
Oh man.
You gotta look for the deals, man.
Yeah, you gotta.
Jason, what about you?
I don't have really any end goals. I'm kind of in the same boat as John. Like, I want all the RPGs. I'm well on my way with a lot of the more expensive ones for the consoles that I collect for, but there are a few consoles that I'm trying to get a full set for, and that's the N64 and the Master System.
Now, are you looking for complete in box or loose?
I go complete in box for Master System, and I'm fine with loose. I honestly don't care about boxes, as great as they look. If it's a cartridge game, I don't care. I don't need that. As long as the cart looks good, we're good.
I always love the look of the N64 boxes. Like, I always
yeah.
remember, like, because
They're
I
so
didn't have very
uniform.
many.
Yeah.
Well, they're uniform until they get crushed.
Yeah.
I got a crush.
I like them. Like, I like boxes for just anything is cool when I get it, but like I'm not going to pay extra, and it makes things more attainable. You know, I'm fine with just the cartridge for any game, but if it's a disc based game, I need at least the case with the artwork.
Same here.
So how do you manage all of your carts? Do you have like just regular shelves for them, or I know John has some like pull out drawers that you can see like all the top labels and stuff on?
I used to have these like bins that I used, but I've actually built custom shelves the exact size of the carts. So that's how I managed the NES, Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, and N64 games. I got another special one I built just for my Genesis games that I need to build an add-on to because I've gotten a shit ton more. But Josh calls them OCD shelves because like I said, they're built the exact height of cases of the games themselves for all my collections. So there's
you really stepped it up.
Yeah, it's always bugged me buying those bookcases where you've got it in there and then it's got almost enough room to have another layer above, another row, but not quite. So then you got to just lay stuff down on top of and then you got that one corner where there's just nothing. And a lot of people have to put like a figure in there to fill that empty space. And that always bugged the shit out of me. I was like, I could be getting more games in here if I just had more shelves, on those things. Like, I made do with those for a long time. But when I moved into this house, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to build shelves to house everything. And I'm up to about the max of what I can hold on the shelves I've built, which means in my game room, I'm actually having to oust all the collectibles to make room for more shelves. And the collections of everything else I have are on the outside of my game room.
Okay.
And the rest of the basement basically is taken up by my comic book collection, all my figures, my Transformers, my shit ton of Legos that the kids and I build. And it's been a pain in the ass. We've talked about it a few times here on the podcast about how annoyed I get when I start to run out of room. But it's not like I'm like going to stop buying games. That's out of the question. So
yeah, it sounds
more
like you're managing a
shelves.
lot of collections.
More shelves. Yeah, they've been shuffled back and forth. Some of them, I'll get a big lot of PS2 games or something, say, and then all of a sudden the space I had allotted for PS2 games needs a new shelf now. So I'm like, oh shit. All right, well, I'll take the GameCube collection and put it where that was, and then I'll move the PS2 over here. And I've had to shuffle quite a lot, but it's getting there. And that's another reason why I don't give a shit about boxes for most games, is because it's just more room to take up. So that's why I don't mind not having them for the cartridge games.
You see, I've got the nice wall behind me that you guys saw, but to my left, I've got a pile of stuff that needs to be put in shelves. And to my other side, I've got a pile I need to sell.
Yeah, my piles are more like, the collector's edition boxes, the console boxes, the giant figures that I keep buying. Like, oh yeah, I've got somewhere for this, but I don't.
Yeah.
And you know, a couple episodes ago, we were mentioning how when I was going to go down to Church's house to go to the Midwest Gaming Classic, I was going to be going to IKEA and grabbing all these display cases for all my collector's edition stuff. So there's a bunch of that stuff just kind of sitting in a pile in limbo, waiting for that stuff to be able to, you know, I can't go across the border, so I can't go visit. So that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I'm fortunate that I got a decent sized room for my game room, but how I initially set everything up, you know, I had my games. I like to highlight some games for each collection, so I'll like turn it sideways so you can see like, you know, the face of it instead of just the spine, and I'll throw some like figures on the shelves and whatnot. And now I'm to the point where it's pretty much full. I got a little room to work with some of the collections, but I have to get a little smarter with placement, and I just added in a new bookshelf. I use the bookshelves like from, you know, Target, Walmart, or whatever. So yeah, space is definitely an issue, and it's kind of always reworking every time I do a pickup video, because that's when I put all my stuff away. I have a shelf where I have like my new pickups. It's a pain in the butt, but you know,
But the real pain in the butt is like shuffling rows of games around to alphabetically place the new stuff you get. I get so annoyed when I'm like, I've got them from 3 different spots in the alphabet, so I've got to shuffle like basically the whole collection around. Especially hate it with the Xbox 360 and PS2 games, because I've got so many of those that it's just a nightmare.
That seems like the absolute worst. Like if I was ever to amass a collection, I think I would just have to leave the bottom row of every shelf vacant just for rollover, and then it's like, okay, I'll know when to buy a new shelf once all these bottom shelves are full again.
So there was a point in time where I didn't have games on the floor, and I would actually leave 2 spaces available on every single section of my shelf. So the shelving I have is like 3 wall units that split into 3 sections a pop, like 9 rows down, right? And so each of those little sections, I'd take like 1 to 2 games like out, like leave a space, so that over time I wouldn't have to shift a whole bunch of stuff. Now it gets to the point where if I get a high dollar game I want to put on the shelf, I have to take 1 game out and shift everything around. And just same issue you guys have.
Yeah. I didn't build them like, oh, I have this many games, I need to make the shelves this big. Like I built them all with like, okay, there's a row and a half here, but then like I see the row and I'm like, I gotta get some more original Xbox games. Oh, I guess I gotta fill that shit. But yeah, it's a fun problem to have, but it's keeping my carpentry skills sharp, because I'm forever having to build new sections of the shelf. It is going to be a problem when I get more Super Nintendo or N64 games, because where that section is going to be really hard to add on to, because it's right under a window. So I can't just like put more shelves up in front of this window. But maybe I will. Fuck that window.
now, do you alphabetize your games?
Me?
Yes.
I sure do.
You do, yeah.
Finally,
I didn't, but my wife got me into alphabetizing because she wanted to play games, and she hated going to my shelf and realizing that one game was over here and the other game was on the other side of PS2 games. So one day she just straight up, when I wasn't home, took everything off my shelves and just alphabetized for me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I had never had problems finding my games, but I didn't alphabetize. I kept them in like these weird categories I made up. Like, oh, these are all movie-based games. Oh, these are all like survival horror games. These are our RPG games. So like I would know the section to look for the game I was going for, because I know what I would categorize it as. But then I was just like, just alphabetize it, fuck it. And I would basically put like the more favorite games towards the top, And then like down lower would be like the games that if they have to go, these would be the first to go, basically.
Mhm.
I kept all the sports games and shit all out of the way, and now the sports games are all banished from most of my collections. Any of my disc-based sports games are like out in the garage. But for the cartridge systems, I still have them mixed in with. But yeah, that's one of the first things I ended up doing. The only disc-based system that has any of my sports games in the shelves now is the 360, because I keep all my 360 games together.
Now I know a lot of collectors hate the like the greatest hits labels and the non-black original labels and stuff. Do you guys have a problem with that on your shelves?
I'll add them to my shelves, but I hate them. It bothers me.
I'd rather have it than not have the game.
Yeah.
So I swap them out when I get a lot. That's why I like buying lots. Is sometimes you'll get a game you already have, and you'll be like, oh, cool. You'll have a better condition one, and then you can switch it out for get the greatest hits copy out. But like I said, I'd rather have it than not have the game. Just like I've got some disc only games that I'd rather have that than not have the game at all.
Mhm.
But I won't buy them like that.
So I'm the same with you guys. I absolutely hate having greatest hits games. I can tell you though, out of all the PlayStation 2 games I have on my shelf, I don't have one disc only outside of, I think, that Futurama that I shared with you guys, the new cover art I cut out. And I've got a greatest hits copy of Sly Cooper 1. I have yet to find a black label Sly Cooper 1. And every time I do, like the last one I found had a Blockbuster sticker right across the artwork, and the disc inside was a greatest hits disc. Like,
Shit.
I'm not kidding you. Like, I don't want to buy this thing on eBay, and I have yet to find a black label copy of Sly 1.
Weird.
I've had this like 10 years.
I have just over 500 PS2 games, and I think there's about, looking at the shelf from here, I can see maybe like 10 or 12 greatest hits. So they don't stand out like a sore thumb. Like I found the greatest hits copies for the PS3 stood out more than they do for other systems.
PS4 now too.
And the GameCube with the yellow is kind of stand out. But also, if you look at other systems like the card only, if that's going to bug me, then my N64 collection should bug the shit out of me, because there's green and yellow and black and red and blue and gold all in there. So
it makes it
my
kinda
OCD,
more
I don't
fun.
have OCD like that, so it doesn't bug me that much. And a lot of the times, well, not a lot of times, but there's sometimes by the time a greatest hits copy comes out, it might actually fix a problem that was in the black label version. So I also keep that in mind and look that up when I get them. You want to get the black label version.
I myself am sitting at, looks like 324 PS2 games right now. So I'm getting there, man. If it wasn't for that big collection I picked up not too long ago, I'd still be under 300.
Hey, and if you hadn't picked up that big collection and I hadn't bought some from you, I'd still be at just shy of 500. So thank you very much.
Man. Yeah, it helped out.
Yeah, so it was good. Yeah, I was in the 490s for quite a while, and I just wasn't finding anything that I was going to go out of my way for. And then,
yeah, I cut that man a deal.
Hell yeah.
Sweet, man. So do you guys have any, like, in terms of where you guys live? Because I know Arizona is really different from, like, when I used to live in Florida, the gaming community out there was so vastly different from what it is here. What's it like out in Minnesota and Canada? Or you're in Minnesota, right, Church?
Yeah, I'm in Minnesota. In my area, we have a bunch of retro stores. There's like, well, I think there's like 5 of them. We've lost a few in the last few years, but we also have, I'd say 2 local, like Facebook communities, collector communities. We had one, and then some drama happened, and then pretty much all the cool people split off into a private group. So we'll grab people from the main group, but there's that. A lot of collectors live around in the Twin Cities area anyways. And I know there's a couple other larger cities that have some communities as well. So there's definitely a community here. What makes it kind of lame now, especially, is there's so many. I guess what you call them career resellers. Like that's what they do. That's their job. Like they don't have a 9 to 5. They just buy like games constantly and are constantly flipping them. We have a lot of those here. Some of the game stores here, like basically hire friends or like teenagers to go scour like citywide garage sales and stuff. So the collecting as in going out and finding stuff in the wild is a lot tougher now. A few years ago, it was still something you could do. Now, to be honest, I haven't gone out garage sailing in the last couple of years just because the previous year was I found so little. But a few years prior, like I was finding, Super Nintendo lots still. Me and a friend found one of those like mythical hauls that we got for $50 that included like a complete and box Earthbound and stuff.
Oh wow.
And we have a pretty, I would say like the people who get themselves involved with the Facebook community benefits a lot because we're tight-knit group. We have until obvious recent gathering discouragement with the pandemic. We used to have like every other month we do like a meetup and people would just bring stuff and we could trade and sell with each other. We'd hang out at game store. Last time we did a meetup at a brewery, which was pretty neat.
That's really cool.
So I mean, it's pretty diverse. We got a group. We have just general collectors, resellers kind of ruin everything. Everybody's kind of wising up too, like pawn shops. They know better now, especially in. So that's basically the scene here. Jason pretty much has his area on lock. Besides, like what was you got like 2 other competitors?
Yeah, 2 other collectors. One other
competitors.
Yeah, but the good thing is you can make friends. You can be friendly with people. So when they find stuff, you can trade with each other. You're not going out of your way. I live in a middle of nowhere Canadian border town, so it's like there's no retro shops. There's no groups for that kind of stuff. The closest one is the Minnesota one that I'm part of with church, and I've been trying to make these trade nights happen on a time when I'll be down there, but it never seems to work out. So that's kind of lame. But yeah, there's no Game Stops, there's no game stores. The only place in my town to buy games is Walmart. The closest
really?
GameStop, or in Canada they're called EB Games, is 3 hours away. So yeah, there's nothing like that around here. But I still have managed to amass a pretty, what I would call, impressive collection given my circumstance.
Yeah, you still managed to get like some hauls. Like it was, I mean, hardcore like a few years ago. Like you're getting crazy lots, but you still find some here and there.
Yeah, that big RPG one was probably like the best one I've ever gotten.
Master System lot.
Yeah, I got that Master System lot like 2 summers ago.
Half the library almost.
Yeah, my whole library is almost all, until I started going to MGC, my entire NES and Super Nintendo library were not bought off the internet.
So it doesn't even matter where you live. Like you might not be guaranteed to get all of everything where you are, but you could probably find something.
Yeah, I can be patient, and the benefit of the small area is everybody knows I like games. Especially from a couple of years ago when I got the world record, people are like, "Oh yeah, you love video games." Like people, when I worked at Walmart, people would be like, "Hey man, do you collect for like this old stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, show me what you got." And sometimes that was probably the best part about working at Walmart, is like that's where people want to meet up anyway when you buy things off like the Facebook Marketplace. So I could just get shit delivered to me at work, and just see people and kind of slip it into conversations and shit. It has always been pretty awesome. Like, yeah, a couple of years ago, before before I even knew church, actually, when I started collecting for like the older systems, if my wife didn't know better, she would have thought I was like a drug dealer, because I was going across the border with like a giant duffel bag empty and coming back with it packed full of like NES and Super Nintendo games, because I was just always doing deals. Like I was always on my phone, like, oh yeah, someone's selling something. Or, you know, you see someone's selling something kind of old and just kind of slip in, hey, happen to have any old video games? And yeah, I've even, like, you know, you plant the seeds that, you know, always see in these people in their pickup videos where they go to a garage sale and someone says, oh, I might have something else, and I'll take your number, and then they never get a call back. I've actually had the benefit of getting a few calls back like years later. There's one girl who was just looking for like it was like an AC adapter for her N64, I think it was, and she traded me some stuff for that, and told me that she had a bunch of, you know, NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis stuff, and I was like, cool. Well, I couldn't persuade her to trade or sell any of it, but I was like, hey, if you ever do go to get rid of it, keep me in mind. And like 3 years later, she hit me up like, hey, yeah, so I thought I'd give you first dibs because you said if I ever sold it, to let you know. And I was like,
wow,
holy shit, the long haul. And yeah, it was a pretty impressive pile of stuff for a good price. Like her NES still had the price tag on it from Canadian Tire. It was,
oh wow.
yeah, I was like, holy shit. So yeah, it's just definitely the patience game around here, because you'll go through droughts where it's just nothing. Like someone selling maybe some 360 games or PS3 stuff, but around this area, it seems like everyone buys the same games. So you're getting like a cookie cutter collection every time where you're like, can you please sell me that one unique game you have out of it? I don't need another copy of San Andreas and like 7 hockey games and 2 Cabela games and just a bunch of junk that like no one wants. I throw it out in the dump and be like, whoa, keep this. We don't want it. Like, so it gets to be slim pickings, but every once in a while, you know, just always keep an eye out. Always, like I said, slip it into conversations, and you never know. Like I was just, I was at work for my new job, and I was just kind of mentioning to him like playing some old games, and he had a buddy over. And he goes, oh shit, you like old like PS2 shit? And he just gave me like a literally a drawer. It was like a dresser drawer just full of like PS2 and GameCube games. I was like, cool. If I hadn't just mentioned games just now, that wouldn't have happened. Like that's how I ended up getting Yakuza 1. So
yeah, and I had that same situation for that big gaming pickup I had where, you know, I was initially just picking up some PS2 games specifically because the guy had Guitaru Man within the collection. So I kind of calculated all out and said, all right, cool, $200. If I can buy the entire lot for this much, I can sell some stuff and make my money back and get a cheap Guitaru Man. Like that's all I wanted. And it just casually slipped out of like, man, you know, if you got any other games, hit me up. And he's like, oh yeah, I got lots of other games. You know, we just bought this house and it was owned by a collector, and he, you know, when we bought the house, all the games came with it. I mean, this guy's sending me pictures the next day of like Vanguard Bandits and Arc the Lad collection and all these other things. And, you know, you guys saw the pictures.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
collection, and that wouldn't have occurred if I wasn't just like, you know, do you have other games?
All it is yeah, just mentioning shit. Like there's been times where I'll buy like, yeah, I'll be buying one 360 game and I'll make the mention, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, like old stuff? Like people can't fathom how you could give a shit about Super Nintendo. And you're like, wow, I don't even want that game anymore. I want to save the money to buy the rest of the shit. You know, like you're like, all right.
So that same week I picked that up, I was reaching out to some guy who had some Xbox games, some OG Xbox stuff, and one of them was like Lost Odyssey and a couple other games. And it was the same thing, man. I was like, you know, hey, if you got any other games that you're looking to sell, let me know. And he ended up having Silhouette Mirage, what's the other one? Legend of Mana, and one other title. I can't recall offhand. But all of them, you know, he was just like, yeah, I'll give it to you for like $30 a game for those 3. And, you know, plus the Xbox games I picked up from the guy, like it was a great haul. Like $100 or $150 is what it cost me to get everything. Totally worth it.
Yeah, sweet. It just like I said, like word of mouth, people just know, oh yeah, they like, even when I deliver pizzas, someone will be like, hey, you still got like that Xbox record or something like that? And I'm like, oh yeah. And then we'll just get talking about games, and someone will be like, oh yeah, I don't really play that anymore. And I'll end up making I've even like been like, here, I'll give you your order for that. You know, it'll be like a $30 order, and I get like a stack of games. I've been tipped in games. It's pretty awesome. For a while we actually had like kind of a consignment type pawn shop type deal in the basement of a store uptown, and it had all types of old school games, and I was kind of buddies with the guy. I'd go do trades with him. I didn't really ever buy anything, but he's like, I appreciate you, man, because you bring in like lots of stuff that people care about that are just getting into it. So I'd bring him my Mario 3s and shit and trade him for Fantasy Star 4s. You know, I'd have to do a pretty good trade for that kind of stuff, but that kind of stuff. But anyway, the guy ended up being like, the lady who owned the rest of the store upstairs was kind of like kicking them out. Like, all right, I want to expand what I'm doing upstairs, so you guys got to go. Sorry. And they ended up moving all their inventory above this other store uptown, and I guess they just left it there for like 6 months, and no one had heard from them. No one knew how to get a hold of them. So the guys who owned that store were like, talk to the lady like, hey, what do we do with this crap? Like, we're going to throw it out. And she's like, I don't know. I could try and get a hold of some. So I get this random Facebook message from this lady going, hey, I know you used to come in here and you like all that old video game stuff. Maybe talk to these guys at the store, because they got a bunch of it. I don't know if they're looking to sell it or just get rid of it. Maybe go talk to them. So I was like, oh, cool, thanks. I went and talked to them, and the guy like goes, yeah, here, bring it. You can bring it down from upstairs into our like back storeroom and go through it. And I was like, okay, cool. And I thought he was just, going to give me a couple of games to help him out, because he was like, yeah, I don't even know what to do with all this stuff. Like, he made it sound like I was just gonna like put all the stuff that goes together so he could sell it and maybe make him an offer. And he's like, yeah, you know what you're doing with all this stuff? And I was like, yeah, this goes with this and this goes with that. He's like, cool, man. And he just gave me like the shove off moment, like, yeah, go ahead, just take it. And I was like,
wow.
What? And he goes, if you decide to sell anything, just be a bro and toss us a couple bucks or something. And I was like, yeah, for sure, because there's multiples of a couple systems, and honestly I've never gotten to go through and like work on them, see what works and doesn't. But yeah, that was it wasn't a lot of amazing stuff in the inventory, but that was still like just the coolest free pickup of all time.
Nice.
So do you have in your area, do you have much for retro game stores? Is everything Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace? Do you have like any like collector?
It's actually the same situation as you, man. So we've got a number of resellers. I mean, we've got one guy that I swear the guy's stealing stuff. There's no way that this guy is getting consistently like high-end collections on a week-to-week basis, almost every couple days. It's crazy. I don't know how he's doing it, but I've seen like full-blown like Sega Master System sets sold by this guy, massive collections of N64 games weekly. The guy's just a career reseller. So I don't know where he gets it. He says he gets it on like OfferUp and whatnot. And like Let Go, I doubt it, to be honest.
Right.
Like, I mean, I swear, if you were to see like I don't know if you guys have that in your areas, but if you were to see the amount of stuff this one seller gets on a consistent basis, and I'm not going to call any names, but it's a lot. Like, I'm shocked. Like the big pickup I had, he's got one of those like weekly, and all he does is sell. And I have no idea how he gets it. Like, I never see this stuff listed. It's never online first. You don't see it on Craigslist, Let Go, OfferUp, Macari, or whatever it's called. It's nowhere. And yet he somehow gets them. So
that is the biggest bum out to see, though, when someone like is getting these deals and they don't even appreciate them. They're just like, that's money. So
yeah,
like, you're like, cool. I would love to just find that and have it, but okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Make a bad name.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a guy locally, basically one of the other bigger collectors in town, and you'll see him get a deal at like noon, pick it up, and 3/4 of it, the stuff he didn't need, are on right back on the same site he just bought them on.
Yeah,
for like double the price he paid for it, with all the good shit missing.
Yeah, and like when I pick up a game collection like that big one I picked up not too long ago, I mean, we're talking well over $1,500 to get everything I got, right? So like that's money I got to get back. That's a big collection. Now, it's one thing to have that versus picking up a collection for $10, $15 and then flipping it for 4 times the money to other collectors, and you don't even appreciate it. You're just flipping just for the pure out money. Like I'm in the middle of a hobby, right? So like if I find something to support my hobby, I have to offset some of those items. And sometimes it's things I want to keep, but I know I have to sell it to be able to get back what I put in to an extent. And on top of that, if I'm selling, I'm not selling local half the time. I'm always just listing online. For one thing, here at least, you can list, a $100 game and put up like or best offer, and there's idiots messaging you saying I'll give you $5.
Oh yeah, I think that's universal.
Yeah, the low ballers are in every community of everything.
I get it, but we don't even get legitimate offers here. Like I've never had a legitimate offer trying to sell locally to where I've just stopped selling locally. It just exclusively goes online.
Yeah.
And it's, for one thing, it sucks because it takes the games out of the community. But at the same time, it's not bringing to light the fact that somebody out there sold me a bunch of games, and then they might go back online and be like, well, damn, I had all these games and I just sold them everything.
Yeah, and he's got them up for like that one game's worth more than what I charged him for all of them. What a dick. Yeah. I don't know how that guy can do it. It kind of irks me every time I see it. And then at the same time, basically my method when I get a good lot is first thing I do is I let my buddies know what I got for extras. Go looking for any of these, and they get first pick. Usually Church, my buddy Chris, the local guy, pretty much are the ones I get a hold of. I might put them up if I get a lot. Like they start piling up, I'll put them up in a trade post on one of the game groups. I've shipped several times to people like all over the US. I hate shipping in Canada, so I refuse to do that. But once that happens, then I'll just make a bundle, sell it on one of the things where it's more like an auction. I'll price it the price that I'm comfortable letting it go for, and just if they bid more, they bid more. But that's about all I do. And then if I'm too lazy to do that, then I'll just bring it to a shop, trade it in.
Yeah, and also you were asking about shops and whatnot. So we've got, just off the top of my head, maybe like 5 or 6 shops that I can think of right off the bat that are like exclusively game related. But there's a number of like other shops that do collectibles and trading cards and all that also sell video games on the side.
Yeah, I always forget about those.
Yeah, so we've got, I would say like close to 10 just within like a 30-mile radius.
Yeah.
For us. So it's like completely flooded. So for a collector, you're competing with that, plus you're competing with other collectors, and then you're competing with all the resellers in the area.
Yeah.
And it gets to be kind of ridiculous. So a lot of my pickups as of late have primarily just been yard sales and flea markets. For the most part, you just get lucky sometimes. And then Goodwill was a source for a lot of pickups for me. Church, I don't know if they're doing it at yours, but they just recently shifted to taking pretty much all of their video games and selling them online.
Ours sell on the shop Goodwill website, so it's not even like local. So you're competing against everybody now. Goodwill online was a nice source for a while, some years ago here, or for me anyways.
Yeah, for us it's kind of turned into like just exclusively online for them.
Yeah.
So like today I saw like a Halo sitting on a shelf, but that's about it. I mean, I'm still gonna go in hopes so like they slip up. So like I picked up Playboy the Mansion on Xbox the other day at a Goodwill for like $250. And normally that's not a game that you would have seen on their shelf. It normally would have gone online, but somebody let it slip. So I'll still hit up like thrift stores and stuff, but I don't really have high hopes and I don't hit them up as often. So
Yeah.
a lot of what I've been doing is just primarily flea markets and yard sales. I've seemed to have more luck doing that with the randomness of potentially finding something versus going to a store consistently and finding squat.
Well, and so many of those stores get picked over. It's easy to go to a store. It's hard to land yourself at a garage sale.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, it's all about timing. Honestly, you might get to a store right when they put them out. That's when you find the good shit.
Yeah,
it's like a garage sale. You might have just get there just after they sold their complete Super Nintendo collection for $30. That's how I go to the local. There's a local thrift store, Salvation Army. I only go there, once in a while. But when I go there, it's either nothing or I walk out with a bag of stuff. So it's really hit and miss. But it's usually not killer stuff, but it's some decent stuff. Sometimes I'll even just grab cheap stuff for a trade because I'd rather trade than sell, as I said. But as far as that goes, like I've gotten the Lad collection look like they were selling it originally, like it was in such good shape, like they just had it on the shelf for, brand new almost. And other times it's just like, a bunch of crappy Wii games or nothing.
So, yeah.
I've even gotten into going to GameStops and picking up some of those rarer games that are sitting on that shelf. So every now and then I'll find a nice gem over at a GameStop, which is pretty cool.
Nice. I don't really do that myself.
I would if there was one local. Anytime I'm in a town that's got anything like that, I make sure to hit them up. And I usually find there's a EB Games a couple hours for me that I end up going to pretty often, and I always find some pretty cool stuff there. They're pretty cool for just letting me have promo shit too, like for like pre-order stuff. Like I got that Code Vein poster I hooked a church up with a couple months ago. They gave me a Tomb Raider flashlight. They let me have the backer slipcover for the PS4 version of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So nice. It's pretty cool. Just even at those kind of stores, just like ask. Because I remember back in the day, GameStop used to give out like demo discs, and they used to have like little cool swag just for like anybody to grab. So I always just kind of, you happen to have any of that stuff? And sometimes they're like, no, not really. Sometimes they're like, I don't know, there's this crap. We can't even sell it. We're not allowed. There's no barcode on it. Sometimes I'll just get a little goodie bag. It's especially if you're buying something, they're more inclined to do that. But I never gotten to, dumpster dive or all that other crap that other people are doing.
So I got a good story for you guys on the dumpster diving. When I lived in Florida, we had, I forget her name, but I think she called herself the Dirty South Gamer. And she would actually like go to every single GameStop. She just had it kind of down, right? She'd hit up every GameStop, dumpster dive everything, and would just post videos on YouTube. And we got to a point where it was just like, I was actually working in a retro store, and she would go to our retro store at night, like right after we closed, and she would just dumpster dive for whatever she could find. And it used to piss me off because I want to say where we were at was illegal to do that. So one day the owner's like, hey, we got to clear out some space. So, I need you to take this bucket of cables and stuff here that we're not going to be selling, like just old cables for like PS1, PS2, like stuff that's just ratty condition, not worth putting on the shelf. And he's like, just toss it. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do if like this old PlayStation 1 that looks kind of ratty, broken corner and stuff? He's like, look, anything that looks bad, just toss it. Consoles, cables, controllers, anything like that. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm going through, I have this massive pile. I mean, we're talking like a huge tub, like one of those big tubs that you would store stuff in. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right. So I took a nice pair of shears and I just started cutting every single cable before I put it into that dumpster. Sure enough, there was a YouTube video to hit the next day where she went out to our dumpster in the rain, I might add, okay, unloads all these games. She's like, oh, this is great stuff and everything. And so she's like pulling out all the stuff. She's like, what the fuck? She's looking at it. She's like, are you kidding me? The cable's cut. Goes through. She's like just pulling out cable after cable after cable. Everything's cut. And she's just like living and fired up. And then she's like, oh, finally, at least something good. She pulls out this PlayStation 1, right, that had the broken corner. I actually took that set of shears and scratched the shit out of that laser and popped it in the trash too. After that, no more YouTube videos from our dumpster. It was
Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things that it just,
And sorry, I was gonna say, if I was at that store and he's like, throw out anything that looks crappy, you'd be like, oh, this whole RPG collection just looks shitty. Oh, just throwing them out right now, and then just
he would not let me take anything. I wanted it. He would not let me take it. He's just like, shred it, because we got other employees here that would want it too. He's like, just toss whatever you got
to make it fair. Oh,
yeah.
Walmart has like a thing like that too. Where when I worked there, like they get an Xbox back, someone would be like, it's broken. They're like, oh, we got no way to test it. I was like, I'll test it. I'm sure I could get it working. I'll give you $20 for it, you know. But they're like, no, we've already claimed it. Oh, we got to throw it out. I'm like, ugh. The kind of shit I've had to throw out when I worked there was like the worst. Like I'd be like, oh, cool. Throw out this Xbox, throw out this PlayStation controller that I'm sure they just didn't know how to sync to the PlayStation. Like,
no, I can tell you though, the same shop I worked for, I was a manager or assistant manager at the time at one of the other locations, and we had tons and tons of old retro game manuals like Super Mario, Ninja Turtles games, like everything you could think of, old cases, Nintendo disc dust sleeves, so the NES dust sleeves. So the previous manager there was like, hey, we got to start getting rid of stuff, like just start throwing away things as you can. I'm like, well, what are we doing about all this artwork? He's like, take it. I don't care, just take it. So I've got like piles of like Lufia, Chrono Trigger, like all of these old manuals just like sitting here with no games. But I have all the manuals, and I've got empty cases for PS2, PS3, GameCube, probably 150 dust sleeves, SNES dust sleeves as well. So like I'm loaded to the top with that stuff, just because that old manager was like, yeah, go ahead and take it, man. Like it's either going in the trash or you can take it home and appreciate it.
Yeah, the closest to that I've ever gotten was when my wife took over being manager of a movie gallery before those went out of business, and they had a whole drawer just full of pre-order bonuses that the store was shipped, you know, because they pre-ordered all the games to get them for release, and it was shirts, lanyards, soundtracks, just what have you, just the whole drawer. And then when she got there, she's like, oh, they needed space for something, and she's like, well, what are we doing with the stuff in this drawer? She's like, I don't know, throw it out. She's like, can my husband have it? And they're like, I don't care, just make room, get it out of here. So she just comes home with this garbage bag and throws it at me. I'm like, what, did I forget to take the garbage out? And she's like, no, I just took the garbage out from movie gallery. And I opened it up, and I was just like, holy shit, I like this job, never quit it. And she never did quit it until she was basically told she didn't have a job, because I do
have a specific question for you though. Was there any footwear within the bag itself?
There was not, and I was sad.
Yes, the footwear. Well, I think we could all talk about collecting and all that stuff for hours and hours. Unfortunately, we don't have hours and hours for the podcast. We could, but
bunk.
Yeah. So, I think probably move into the community question. Maybe we'll get to some footwear stuff.
Well.
So, last week, the community question was, what's your favorite sword in gaming? We were building off of the previous, which was, what was your
gun in gaming? You huge.
Gun. I screwed it up.
You mudded it all up.
I even got it wrong on the document.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, I already answered this. Did I answer it when we asked it? That was different.
Railgun, Red Faction.
Which one?
That is a good game.
Railgun and Red Faction.
Oh yeah. That's a game. That's also a good gun in GoldenEye Rogue Agent. Same name.
Maybe the sniper from Halo.
Sweet. All right. Well, what you got, Church? What's your favorite?
There's these. I always struggle with these because they're tough.
You hate guns and gun violence? Oh, I thought you were about to make like a political statement.
Not in video games.
All right.
But there's just so many cool guns. But when I just start thinking about it, like the immediate things that come to mind are usually what I go with. And that's, for this case, I would say non-traditional would be Half-Life 2, the gravity gun, and Portal 1 and 2 with the portal gun. Those are just so cool.
Yeah,
and
those
like
are undeniably good choices.
And they were kind of like big changes in the industry with the tech and whatnot at the same time. But I can't, if we're talking about guns, I always have to mention Lara Croft's dually pistols from like OG Tomb Raider. That's good stuff.
Wielding pistols, always stylish.
Yes.
Oh man, what about dually golden magnums from Goldeneye? Or for Perfect Dark? Perfect Dark. Yes.
Nice.
Those was the best.
So we did get a few comments. So let's see what we got from there. Bossum Burf says his favorite sword and gun, which will trigger a lot of folks, is the Gunblade.
Gunblade cool as shit. That's one of the
Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, I always thought those were a cool weapon.
It didn't actually ever shoot, did it? I don't recall.
Was it part of the Limit Break?
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
I think.
I never played 8, so I couldn't tell you.
I don't have a lot to.
It should have shot.
I don't have much good to say about the games. Moving on to Back in the Day Gamer, and he's keeping it back in the day because that is his thing. And he says Rapid Spread in Contra 2 is his favorite gun in a video game.
Absolutely. That Am's a good one.
Yeah.
Do we got any
Spreader? Then we also got Black Metal Gamer says loves the new shotgun meat hook shot in Doom Eternal. Yeah, that's awesome. And then he mentions Garcia Hotspurs, the big boner in Shadows of the Damned, is pretty badass.
Fun game.
Fun one. Sweet. Is that all for?
That is all of our comments. So thank you very much for those, folks.
As far as my favorite, I'm gonna keep it kind of obvious. My favorite's probably the Lancer from Gears of War.
Of course.
Because it's a fucking machine gun with a chainsaw attached to it. How cool? How much cooler than that can you get?
Not
You can get a real gun.
Yeah, show up the railgun or the BFG. You know.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or the Rhino from Ratchet and Clank.
Absolutely.
Man, there's so many good guns in gaming. It's like every one of these that we've brought up, it's like any of these could be a top contender.
Absolutely.
totally. Yeah.
There's no gun as cool as footwear. And I gotta ask everybody for this week's community question: what is your all-time favorite footwear in gaming? There we go.
And there's some good stuff out there. So
That's some good footwear. Some solid ass shoes and boots.
at first it was like, what a silly question that is, but when you think about it, I think it's a great question.
I know we joked about it last time, but yeah.
And then heels.
You never hear about what they're they're going these long journeys. They must have to have some solid ass footwear.
Well, and you're always looking for new boots in a store, in a game. Where
Sure.
can I get some new boots? I've had these boots for 3 levels. I need new boots.
Absolutely. Doesn't even
I'm
matter.
so happy we started the episode with the footwear question.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so let us know what your favorite footwear in gaming is, and we will talk about those next time. So then we'll move into what we've been up to, what we've been playing. Of course, shout out any podcasts or videos you've done.
Yeah.
So let's start it off with our guests. John, what have you been playing recently?
I have been playing Arc the Lad 3, so I'm probably about 49 hours into that game right now, close to the end. I've got, I want to say about 30 missions left in that one before I finish it up and then move on to the next big thing. And on my side game, so I play one game by myself and then I play one game alongside my wife. And so we've been playing Neverwinter Nights. We're on chapter 4 now, out of 4 chapters. And we're just about done with that one too. We're getting to a point where all of the battles are just dragons and giants and everything else. So
Yeah.
we're pretty close. So as soon as we're done with that, we're going to be super stoked to move on to something else. I think we were talking Ukulele 2 might be our next game that we play.
Not Neverwinter Nights too?
No, God, no.
You got to back-to-back them, John.
What's that?
You got to back-to-back them.
Hell no, man. And that's not including how many like pieces of DLC come with the Neverwinter Nights 1 copy.
And they're, personally, I say they're totally worth playing. Shadows of Undertide and Hordes of the Underdark.
Mm-hmm.
Super good.
Yeah, they're great games. I mean, I've seen a lot of videos on these, and I've heard a lot of reviews from friends that played the PC versions of Neverwinter Nights in full, Diamond Editions and everything else. I would like to get through those at some point, but I cannot do a back-to-back right now. Like, it has been, I mean, it's too much D&D 3.5 in video game format, and playing it on a Switch controller, it drives me crazy, man.
Yeah, and I've really been enjoying hearing your thoughts and your wife. So, like, what you've thought about Neverwinter Nights, because like I love Neverwinter Nights. I mean the campaigns I enjoyed quite a bit, but I played online, and people would basically make. I don't know if you know much about the original online functionality with the PC version. It came with the thing called the Aurora tool set. Do you know about that?
No, I don't. I have heard of, I don't know if it's Neverwinter Nights, but certain spells. I think there's one that you can like unleash cows or something. Is that Neverwinter Nights, or is that a different game I'm thinking of?
It might
the cow level in Diablo.
Maybe.
Is it Diablo?
Yeah,
Well, there's a cow level, but so Neverwinter Nights came with the PC version came with the Aurora tool set, which is like it was a fully loaded tool set where you could easily, to an extent, make your own what they were calling modules, which is basically just using Neverwinter Nights assets. You can make them like an expansion or like a side quest. And eventually people started getting a little bit more creative. And the things that caught me were people were basically building, some were just original ideas. Some were like, say, a region or an area in Faerun. And basically you go on and it's always on. It was always online. They call them persistent worlds. So you could have admins while the players are playing. Admins could like do encounters or quests or even changes on the fly. And I played these online. Basically, it was the closest thing we'll ever get to video game actual pen and paper Dungeons and Dragons in a game. It was amazing. Nice. I played that for years. Like I've talked about it in videos and on the podcast ad nauseum. Good stuff. There are still some of these servers are still running, which is pretty interesting. But it's kind of a whole nother beast aside from just the base game itself.
Yeah, for sure. And the base game's been fun. I've enjoyed it. It's kind of, it's gotten to that point, like we discussed earlier when I had mentioned like Alien Isolation. It's a game that I've enjoyed, but it's kind of started to run its course, right? So I want to move on to the next thing, and hopefully we get there pretty soon. But I could taste it, man. We're like right at the end of this game. We're so close to moving on to our next title, and I cannot wait.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ryan, what have you been playing?
So I've been playing a ton of Monster Train these last couple of weeks. It was just launched a few weeks ago on Steam. It's kind of like Slay the Spire, but instead of just having one character, you've got like different levels, and you set up monsters and upgrade your spells. It's just a whole roguelike deep hole of, making different builds and trying different runs, and the difficulty keeps going up, and I'm having a great time with that. And I have, in the meantime, abandoned Animal Crossing. I've abandoned Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I've abandoned Persona 4. And Oh yeah, I started playing Paper Mario and I abandoned that for this as well. So I've left a lot of destruction in my wake as I've switched over to this game, trying to drive my train straight to the center of hell and relight the fire.
Awesome.
I've beaten it. I've done like 5 runs that have gone through, but it's just like it's one of those games that as soon as you're done, you're like, oh man, I was so close. Just give me one more run. But it's like each one takes like 30 minutes to an hour, depending on whether you're going to get through it or not. So it's just like it's eating up all my time, and I love it. But I need to get back to doing some real gaming soon.
Shit, all this abandoning though. I hope you're not a parent.
No. I'm far too untrustworthy for that.
Like 40 hours and this kid's still not growing up. I'm out of here.
I get a kid all the way to their senior year, and I'd be like, this is where I would stop.
No, Ryan, you're giving yourself too much credit. Usually it's about the sophomore year because you can't get to the senior year. That's the end game right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're definitely right. That kid is working at McDonald's.
He's in trouble. So Jason, you've been busy.
I've been pummeling shit on my days off this week. After what feels like I was barely getting an hour here, hour there, and it worked out that I was able to kick the shit out of some stuff. I got some I don't know, some sort of shmup fever. I played a shit ton of shmups. I started with Katsui Destiny and Esprit Sai, which are a couple of apparently really pricey PS4 games that I got a lot cheaper than I see them going for. I told our buddy Chris, the old ass retro gamer, about them, and he's like, "Shit, man, those are like $90 to $100." And I was like, "Pretty sure I just paid $50 for them." And one said that it was used like new, and I was like, "No, it's new like new. It was still factory sealed when I got it." So that was a nice surprise. Both those games are awesome. Katsui Destiny was like a chopper shmup, and Esprit Sai was like you're basically like a superhero. You're just like a person flying and shooting all this crazy bullet hell shit everywhere. And then it became June 1st, and June 1st is the beginning of Gears of War month on the Cartridge Club Prime game of the month. So
yeah.
Like all about that. So I started my days off with Gears of War 1. Got through that relatively quickly because it's not my first rodeo with that one. Then jumped right into Gears of War Ultimate, which adds a few more chapters that are exclusive to the PC version of the first game. Conquered that pretty quickly. I think I did it pretty early the next day. Then I jumped into Ice Cream Surfer, a side-scrolling shmup, which is pretty rare for me. It's not very often I do the horizontal ones. I'm all about the vertical ones. And then I just went on a Raiden kick.
Yeah, you did.
I beat Raiden 4, Raiden Fighters 2, Operation Helldive, Raiden Fighters Jet, Raiden 3, Raiden Trad, Space Megaforce, and that was between yesterday and today. And I also, just before, about an hour and a half before we finished the podcast, I took on Vice Project Doom, which is not a shmup. And that was a hell of a lot of fun. It's a game I've been wanting to play for a long time. I wanted it for a long time. Finally got it last year at MGC. Finally played it today. Loved it. It's now one of my favorite NES games. And
wow.
I highly recommend it. And funny enough, I didn't expect this, but there's these car driving levels that are kind of like a shmup. So there was that.
Can't escape.
Yeah, it was that, but it's mainly a platform. I'd say like 90% of the game is platform. But I've never played a more cinematic NES game. There's so much like cutscenes in between levels that fleshed it out. It felt like a newer game, you know, like the new games look like old games with their classic pixel graphics, but this felt like a newer game. It felt it felt like it was just made in a retro style, but it's a kick-ass game. If you haven't played it, definitely play it. Besides all those games, that whole thing, I still have been playing the shit out of Predator Hunting Grounds. I slowed down a little bit. I reached level 50. I bought Dutch the day he came out. I played as him a lot. He's his own character class. He's not
Cool.
It's not just a character skin. It's not him just saying a few lines and his likeness. It's actually really, really cool. His gun is my favorite gun in the game because it's not only a machine gun, but it's got the underbarrel grenade launcher, which is super effective on predators. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And as you level up, you unlock these basically like debrief cassette tapes, which were awesome. They basically fleshed out his story from the events of the original Predator, even some stuff from Predator 2, and onwards to not only the current day, but a couple of years in the future. The funny thing is that they're all cassette tapes. So even like there's a tape from 2025. You're like, where is he still getting cassettes in 2025? But either way, it's pretty cool.
Nice.
I'm still trying to get a team together to play more of that, but matchmaking's going okay. And Chris and I have been playing quite a lot with my brother. So yeah, that's it. What have you been playing? What have you been up to?
Well, I started off a couple weeks ago, jumped back into Yakuza 0.
Yeah.
So working on that. Didn't make a ton of progress. Started getting pulled into all the side stuff.
Yeah, I can do that. It's pretty involving.
Yeah, last bit I was doing was with Majima, the second character, basically expanding his nightclub and like doing that whole thing and generating a bunch of money. And then, of course, last week, as I'd mentioned previously, Shantae and the Seven Sirens just came out. So that's pretty much what I've been playing. I've really been kind of taking my time, but I've also been kind of busy this last week, like doing stuff.
Ugh, stuff that's not games. You don't want to hear about it.
Stuff
Right.
gets in the way.
Yeah, life, hanging out. Yeah, I do other things. I still just started kind of hanging out with a couple friends again because things are kind of starting to relax a little bit.
Where you're from? Where you're from's on fire.
Well, that's true, but not in my suburb, at least.
Yeah.
But
you're reporting from the smoky ashes of Minneapolis right now.
Yeah, and not too far away from where I am. But no, so I've mostly been playing Shantae and the Seven Sirens. If you've played the older Shantae games, I think it's a step in they went back to the Metroidvania style, which is what I'd hoped for. Its art style is very much in the same vein of like Half Genie Hero with the hand-drawn style. But it's great. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm really going to save my thoughts on it because I'm likely to do a video review.
Okay.
Just because.
Short question, short answer. Is the things you were worried about, were they unfounded or?
Yes, they were unfounded. The game's actually surprised me. It exceeded my expectations because it was originally kind of seeming like it was almost like, I don't want to say a full-on like mobile version, but it originally released. They released the first part of it on Apple Arcade, and I was like, okay, so it's gonna be toned down, and no, they did a good job. Well,
speaking of Yakuza 0, one thing I forgot to mention is Yakuza 0 reminded me because it's the cover image we used that we photoshopped our heads onto for the episode.
Oh, right.
Episode 4 of the Super Enabler Bro show. So that came out actually today as of recording. So check that out. It was another fun one.
Cool.
Always a good time over there. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, so then we can just kind of look at the upcoming games in the next couple weeks. doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of big releases in the next couple weeks, which I'm happy about. It's always nice to have a
not for games.
break.
I'm getting a.
Well, you got a little to catch up.
I got a truckload of Ghostbusters coming in my mailbox. two different full sets. But a game I am excited for is East Memories of Salcedo.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
It was supposed to come out a while ago, but COVID fucks everything up.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the delays are going to build up after a while.
I'm excited to get more East games. I don't play the PSP enough to warrant kind of buying pricey games for it. So I'm glad that some of those are getting ported.
Yeah, and I think really the only one that I'm particularly interested in is Command & Conquer Remaster Collection.
Nice.
I love the
all right.
Yeah, and it's good stuff. And having it all in one place, I'm still kind of beating myself up over the fact that Limited Run did a physical version for it, and I saw it and I was like, I should get that. And I kept saying that because they had open pre-order. It was up for a couple weeks or something, and I kept saying I should get that, and I didn't, and then I waited too long, and now I regret not ordering that.
You're probably just thinking objectively because you knew that you're going to have to buy like 8 different versions of 7 Plans.
Yeah, I did spend a little bit on that to get what I want for my collection, but that's just how it goes.
It's the things you got to do when you got the most massive Shantae collection in the world.
It's true. Yeah, I think that's Valorant. I think is getting like the full release, which is the new like League of Legends inspired shooter, hero shooter, kind of like their Overwatch killer or something.
We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I know they got some beta stuff going, but you have to be like involved with Twitch or something to be able to get a beta code because of course, it's all about the streamers these days.
Yeah, well, isn't that one of those games developed by that Amazon studio?
I believe so.
Yeah, and Amazon owns Twitch, so they must be just partnering up exclusively with their broadcasters there.
Could be.
I just thought of the Spider-Man meme with Spider-Man pointing at the other Spider-Man.
Yeah. So then just want to, as I'm trying to make it more of a every episode thing, just kind of give a shout out to the Cartridge Club Game of the Months. We just wrapped up Undertale for May. Cartridge Club Prime, as Jason mentioned, is doing Gears of War for June. Quick Save Club will be starting Antichamber for June, and Cartridge Club Portable is doing Portable Mania for June, which is play any portable game, share your thoughts, and it will likely be discussed on their podcast.
Oh, cool.
Good stuff. I guess then as we kind of wrap things up, usually we talk about what games we're going to be playing in the next couple weeks briefly. So what do you guys plan on playing in the next couple weeks?
Well, at least for our podcast, we're going to be playing a Katamari game. I don't think Ryan, if I recall, has ever played a game in a Katamari series. Ooh. So that's going to be our next inflation deflation. So we're going to do that on PS2. And either We Love Katamari or Katamari Damacy is the next one there. And then after that, I'm not sure. We usually take our games on a week-to-week basis. So, we might play something on Xbox or NES or SNES. We're not sure yet.
Cool. Ryan, you got any things on deck to play next?
Well, June just rolled around, so I'll probably check out some of the June Animal Crossing updates. Try to get away from so much Monster Train and try to get back into my new games resolution and try to finally get all the way through Persona 4. I was having a really good time with it. I just dropped it, and then I know me and my wife have been talking about how we've been neglecting poor Final Fantasy VII Remake these last few weeks, so we'll probably try to get back in there too.
How are you able to walk away from that game? I got it so hard.
We got to the Honeybee Inn, and it's like, how are you going to top that?
Jason, you know who you're talking to, right? It's Brian, completionist.
Captain Neglect.
Yes. Neglect. Wherever
he took
need finished, I'll be there.
You're talking to the man that called me when I was on my honeymoon and said, I beat Bloodborne in full within like 4 days and had no issue doing it. And then you give the guy Sekiro Shadows Die Twice and he like gives up after a week.
I did not beat Bloodborne. I did not beat the final boss.
Did you really?
No, because I wasn't sure about whether or not I should play the DLC, because it's like I got the game for free, so it's like I really wasn't gonna buy the DLC. And then I was like, I don't really need to beat the final boss. I know what it looks like. I've seen that video.
Oh my god. You guys see what I deal with on a week-to-week basis?
You fight here.
Yeah. No, funny. He won't listen and whatever. I don't care if he hears me complain about it. But I have a good friend of mine that he plays lots of games, but he'll play like up until the end. Like he won't stop like early, but he'll get like to the end and then quit because he feels like if he finishes the game, it like, I don't know. He says he doesn't want it to end, so he just never finishes them. It's like, he drives me insane.
Playing a game is fun. Beating a game is hard.
Oh my god. It's like a Confucius saying.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't even.
I mean, I could see if it was like, a. I don't know what I was gonna say. Like,
well, what do you plan on playing in the next couple weeks?
I have Trials of Mana, Sakura Wars, and Cosmic Star Heroine staring me in the face that I'm gonna say are gonna be my games. But you know me, I'm a wild card. I'm all over the place. I'll probably play some more shmups. Who am I kidding? I'll play some of those, but I've got them sitting upstairs in the living room where I can play. That's how I got through a bunch of the 360 games that I beat. But I actually managed to spend time with my family, as surprising as that is, with how many games I beat. I spent quite a lot of time with them, so that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
But yeah, starting these RPGs, I guess I'll just full on abandon everybody.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. I'm really thinking I'm going to start Sakura Wars like right away. It's looking really cool to me, so that's why I bought it. Might as well play it.
Do it. And then for me, I'll be wrapping up Shantae and Seven Sirens. I'm pretty much at the end. I was just getting basically all the like little collectible items so I could 100% the game. And then I'll jump back into Yakuza 0. I know Jason has been harassing the hell out of me about some Gears of War. I am not playing Gears of War with the Karcher Club this month. Nothing wrong with the game. I played it. I played it some years ago and enjoyed it quite a bit, but kind of like I figure why not jump into the next game in the series because I haven't played any of the other Gears games. I did. I went on eBay and I ordered a headset, and I needed a cable because I don't have any way to charge my controllers. I don't have any charging cables or anything. So I ordered a cable for 360 controller. So
okay, well,
we'll see what happens.
As been noticing by my just beat it, I stopped at beating the first one twice in two separate ways. So I've not yet beat 2 because I'm waiting for you to play it. But I'm intending to play 2, 3, and Judgment this month with you.
We'll see.
Friendship.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, I guess as we kind of close things out here, would you guys want to mention again, podcast, how people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure thing, man. So all podcast applications out there, Apple Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast Addict, whatever you can find us on, we're going to be on there. And soon to be launched, thegamedeflators.com. And of course, you can find us on social media. So at Game Deflators on Twitter or at The Game Deflators on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. And then, of course, with our podcast, it's available on YouTube and SoundCloud via podcast apps and as well as Apple Podcasts. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, just look up The Game Grinder. And for Jason, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, Corpse Flood Gaming. Hit us up.
Do it. And check out Super Dabler Bros.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
And
partaking with that backlog roulette, it is so liberating to have the choice made for you. You don't even know until you try it out. It's so fun.
We'll have to try it. Guys, thanks again for having us on. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And if anybody has not listened to the Game Deflators podcast, definitely check it out. It's a favorite.
Yeah, I don't listen to a lot of other podcasts about video games, and you're one of my like 3 only other ones I listen to. So
we definitely appreciate the comments, guys. It's a lot of fun to host it, and definitely a lot of fun when we get some good positive feedback. A quick question for you on the length of the episode. Did we hit the record, or are we the longest episode, or no?
No. We've
gone on tangents. There's probably a new small Shantae thing leaked one time, and he went on the 2 hours by himself.
No, from a guest perspective, though, are we the longest?
Might be.
I'm not sure.
We got to keep going like 10 more minutes.
There was a point when we were like doing like 2 to 2.5 hours per episode.
Oh, wow.
And I really had to reel that back because, I mean, I enjoy.
So long, I get really annoying after a while.
That's exactly what it is. No, I don't mind recording a long podcast, but I've seen lots of comments, people just talking about podcasts in general, where I think it kind of seems like that 45 minutes to like an hour and a half is like really the sweet spot.
You know what the sweet spot is? Good conversation that is worth listening to no matter the length.
Absolutely.
I think that's what we had here today.
There we go.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, again, thank you guys very much for joining us for this episode of the Game Tenants Podcast. And yeah, everybody, check out Game Deflators. Hit us up. Let us know your thoughts. Answer that community question. And we will talk to you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.